Yeah, this whole idea of comics in the classroom has really started to launch out, and they're actually, the State Board of Education and even nationally, they're starting to look at it. Diamond, which is the primary distributor of comics, has actually created a list that ties in with the Common Core standards. And several of the books I worked on, stuff I'd worked on for Discovery Channel, Animal Planet, History Channel, several of those books have actually ended up on that list, which I didn't even know that was going to happen, which was kind of a surprise when I actually got an email. It was like, oh, look, 6 of the books you wrote for Animal Planet and stuff are now on this nationally recognized education list. And it was like, wow, that's kind of different, unexpected. But for me, that's really exciting because comics is really where I learned to read. I was dyslexic as a kid. And I had a really hard time reading out of a book, traditional text. It was tough. You read a paragraph, you read 2 paragraphs, you're like, what'd I read? I don't even know. And you keep doing it over and over, and the words are backwards and jumbled, and you read out loud, and what you're reading out loud isn't what it says on the page, and they're like looking at you like, what's wrong with you? So when I discovered comics when I was about 13, 14, which is usually where kids discover comics, that changed. I think maybe the visuals on the page and the words, the marriage of words and pictures made it possible to understand what I was reading, and to engage in a story. And I could read a whole comic, and especially back in the comics in the 80s and the 90s, there was a lot more text in those comics versus now they're much, much, much less text in a comic and much more visually driven. But to be able to read through an entire comic and have, retained every word it was a big deal to me. And not, through that, I think I started being able to read books, and getting interested in writing and getting interested in caring about school, and actually getting good grades versus I'm so screwed up and jumbled from, the confusion of reading that I'm just going to not try, which was what happened to me. So, really comic books in a lot of ways saved me, which is an odd thing to say, but then ultimately comics led to my first job in Hollywood too, which was pretty cool. I got hired at a company called Platinum Studios, and it was largely because they were a comic book based development company, and they own thousands of comic properties, and they develop them for film and TV, and I knew about those properties, and ended up getting hired. So I did get to call my mom and go, those thousands of comics I read as a kid, turns out it did get me somewhere in life. And she was like, cool, you got a job. But to me, it was like that moment, turns out it did. But yeah, comics in the classroom, I think, is a big thing we're starting to see. So, and with Discovery Channel and Animal Planet, History Channel, looking into doing those books, and doing more and more of them, I think we're really going to see an explosion in that space.
Thank you for listening. Please review our other available content for help writing, publishing, and marketing your book. If you have any questions about the Author Learning Center, please contact us by email at authorsupport@authorlearningcenter.com.